Welcome to my mid-year freakout tag. We're not quite to mid-year yet, but I would be really surprised if I read anything in the next 2 weeks that would change my opinions. I have been in reading slump in June, and it sounds like a lot of people have been in a bit of a reading slump. It's been a struggle. I just have not been reading the way that I normally do. I'm gonna be happy if I get 5 books this month, which is just like crazy. That's just like beyond abnormal for me, but we persist. We struggle through, and let's talk about all the questions for the mid-year freakout tag. The first one is best books of the year so far, and I don't know that I really had like an oh my god, this is going to be an all-time favorite kind of book, or like ones that are really going to stick with me. I've had a few that actually might be all-time favorites, but these are the ones that first came to mind when I read the question. The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. This one was so much fun. It's this kind of epic fantasy. We start with trials and then move away from that by the end of the book. There's so much betrayal, and we get this subplot of friends to enemies to lovers that I think is really fun. And also I really love like a sarcastic side character that is also an animal, and we get that in here. It's just so much fun. One of my all-time favorite horrors probably, so maybe this does fit in the all-time favorite category, but The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling. I read this in January and loved it. I'm still thinking about it. I may do a reread this year. That's how much I loved it. I think that this book would thrive being read in the fall. It's this messy sapphic romance set in a medieval castle, and it's just so unique and weird, and the romance is like just yearning, barely touching, and there's just something about that that really speaks to me. And the last one that I think is going to be a favorite for the year is The Jasad Heir. I actually have already read the duology, the Scorched Throne duology. The next one comes out in July, but it's so good and it holds up, which is just so satisfying. I hate when a duology, the second book, is a letdown, because that's it. There's no fixing that. But we get a true enemies to lovers plot. I am just obsessed with it. There's a lot of like knife to the throat scenes. I think that the characters are really complex in a way that I just binged through it. I buddy read the second book, and that was absolutely the way to do it. We have so many comments on Storygraph. It's just so good. I went from giggling to kicking my feet to crying in not that many chapters, honestly, and this is one that I'm going to be recommending a lot because I think that it is so underhyped, and it needs so much more hype than it has. The second question is best sequel. This is super easy, and that's Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. This is better than Legendborn. I like this better than Legendborn, and that so rarely happens. Usually a second book in a series is a little bit of a dip for me, pretty much I'd say like 90% of the time, honestly, but this I liked better. I also gave Legendborn a 4-star, but this was an easy 5-star. I am afraid to read Oathbound. I still have not read Oathbound. I will, just not yet. I can't handle it yet. My worst book of the year, if you're not new here, not surprising at all, is Firebird by Juliet Cross. This is a Roman-inspired fantasy that has dragons, and that tagline sounds so good. It is also tagged as a dark fantasy romance, sure. However, the main plot is between like an army general and his slave, which, like, 1, consent cannot happen there. 2, if you're trying to argue with me because you think I didn't read the whole thing, I did read the whole thing, so you couldn't make that argument. 3, if you're saying it's like historically accurate or something, what are we gonna romanticize next? The Holocaust? Not everything needs to be romanticized. And if you can't tell, I'm very passionate about how much I hate it. Even beyond the problematic bits and pieces of it, it's just not written well, and any romance scene is like pretty cringe. So even aside from the problematic parts, I wouldn't have liked this. New release you haven't gotten to yet, but want to. I have 2 for this one, and they both came out in June. One is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I'm so excited for this. I am like 10 chapters into this actually, but I haven't finished it yet. So this is one that I really need to get back into. This is toxic lesbian vampires. I'm sure you've heard that tagline a million times at this point, and I'm so excited. According to the author, you get a little glimpse of Addie from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue in here, which is just so fun. I love when authors have cameos from their other books, even if the books are not connected at all. I think that's so fun. So I am so excited to read this. It's also a standalone, and we really do need more fantasy standalones. Then the next book I haven't started yet, and that's Wearing the Lion by John Wiswell. This is the author of Someone You Can Build a Nest In, which is like a sapphic horrormance type of situation, and it is so much fun. It is very like cheeky and cozy, and usually I'm not a cheeky cozy person, but when you sprinkle some genuine body horror in there, and suddenly I become interested. And this is more of like a Hercules retelling, and I do know that Hercules is bi in this, so just so excited. Most anticipated releases. There are still so many coming out this year that I am so excited for. Probably my biggest one, my most anticipated release along with everybody else, is The Strength of the Few by James Islington. I am so excited to get back into this world. I loved The Will of the Many last year. It was my favorite book, so I am just so excited for this. I cannot wait. I think that I have really high hopes for it. I haven't heard a whole lot. I know some people have gotten arcs already, but I haven't heard really any opinions. I'm kind of scared. I'm scared to know opinions. I do know that it pretty much picks up right where book one ended, which is great. I was hoping for no time jump. A few others that I'm excited for: You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. I do have the arc for this one, and I've already started it, and I was immediately sucked in. I think his YA horror is pretty horrific already, so I don't know where he's going to go with the adult horror. I kind of know like the triggers and the tropes for this one, and I know it is going to be absolutely vile and disgusting. And I am so excited. Also along the bug line, we're getting another from Aaron Enes, and I really liked Leech last year. This is called Works of Vermin, and it's about a guy who must exterminate this big old worm to save his sister, or something about his sister. So I do love the cover on this one, and also it is currently on my Kindle. I really need to get to it. We're getting the fourth book in the Gods and Monsters series by Amber V. Nicole. This is my all-time favorite romantasy. I love Diana. She is my favorite main character ever, and I cannot wait for the next book. I love this world, I love these characters, and it's just my most anticipated release. I think I said that about The Strength of the Few too. I actually can't pick, but it's absolutely up there. And the last one that we want to talk about is actually an anthology, which is really weird because I'm not a super big short story or anthology girly, but The End of the World as We Know It is an anthology that is set in the Stand universe by Stephen King, but the stories aren't written by Stephen King. They're written by a bunch of other horror authors, and there's so many good ones like Nat Cassidy, Gabino Iglesias, S.A. Cosby, I think, and Stephen Graham Jones, Haley Piper, like so many good ones. It's like the Super Bowl basically for like horror publishing, I feel like, and I cannot wait to get my grubby little hands on a copy. My biggest disappointment of the year, I have two I actually want to talk about. The first one is Private Rights by Julia Armfield. I loved Our Wives Under the Sea last year. I thought the way that it talked about grief was so incredible. It made me bawl. It was so good. And then Private Rights was so mid to bad, honestly. This is like a King Lear retelling, and I don't know my Shakespeare that well, so I wasn't invested from that standpoint, but I think the payoff for like the kind of nothing story that you get in this book is so frustrating. It was just, I was mad by the end of it. Like I didn't feel nothing, I felt angry, and not in like a fun way. So that is one that I was really disappointed by. And then the other one was Pure Nessie. I wasn't as enamored as I thought I was going to be with this one. It insisted upon itself a little bit too much, I think, and I just didn't really have as much fun as I thought I was going to with it. It was a 3-star, so it wasn't bad, but I was expecting to love it. My biggest surprise was probably Dungeon Crawler Carl. I read the first 6 books this year, like relatively recently, and I think it was my individuality complex, I think a little bit, that made me so surprised. I know it was getting so much hype, and I wanted to not love it as much, I guess, and I also was not super familiar with lit RPG. That's kind of like a new territory for me, but they're so much fun. And like I should have known with the Sassy Talking Cat that I was going to be obsessed with them, and as everyone says, the audiobooks are excellent. They're primarily narrated by Jeff Hayes, and he just does such an incredible job at making each voice so distinct. I think they're so much fun. They're definitely not for everybody. If you are not super into video games, you might not be as enamored with them, but like I really enjoy video games, especially like creating your character. If you love that part, you will probably like Dungeon Crawler Carl. Favorite new authors. I was trying to think about this from the perspective of not just like one new book that I have read by an author this year. So I'm going to mention two. One is Paul Tremblay, because I read Cabin at the End of the World and Head Full of Ghosts last year, and I liked both of them. But this year, I read The Pallbearers Club, and it has like such 80s rom-com vibes and has you guessing right until the end. It's beyond fun, and I think that if you don't like it, you didn't get it. Not to have that opinion, but like I do for this one, because I just loved it so much. I think it's so fun, and the way that it is told through autobiography, but then in the margins someone else is commenting on it, absolutely just such a delight. And I've also started a horror movie this week, and I'm listening to the audiobook, and I know maybe not basing this tag off of it yet, but it's really good. The audiobook's really good, and I'm having a good time with it. There's just something about Paul Tremblay that is for me, and I'm just so excited to have him up there on favorite authors. And then the other one is Meg Smitherman. She writes these sci-fi horror romances that blend the genre perfectly, and they are just these weird little books every time. She's written Swallowed and Thrum, and then Entity is coming out, and that's Sex Robots, and I got the arc for that one too. They're all so fun and weird, and it's just so unique. I love them, and I will read everything that she writes. So, new favorite author. My newest favorite character is probably Bree from the Legendborn series. I think that she is just such an incredible main character. I love being in her head. I'm very excited to get back to Oathbound and be devastated by it, but I am scared. I think that she has gone through so much, but is still so emotionally intelligent, and I really like that about her. The last book that made me cry. I haven't really cried too many books this year, so this was a difficult one for me to come up with, but I would have to probably say the ending of Ruin by John Gwynne. This is the third book in the Faithful and the Fallen Quartet, and there's a very specific reason. There's a very specific trope scenario that I really tend to avoid because it really makes me sad, and it happens in this one. Probably. I don't know. I need to read the fourth book to know for sure, but I would say that this is the one that made me like the saddest for sure. John Gwynne does have a tendency to make me cry, because I also cried for the Bloodsworn Saga last year. Books that have made me happy. So I think ones that like made me laugh out loud, probably the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I just think that Jeff Hayes' delivery and the way that Matt Dinman writes just like the most antagonistic to the main characters, it just makes me chuckle every time. Also, How to Lose the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Django Wexler was also very funny. Dark Lord Davi is just so like sarcastic and a little kind of like dry humor, which really gets me. That's something that will actually make me chuckle. But as far as like giggling and kicking my feet, I guess that I haven't read like a whole lot of romances. I don't read contemporary romance, but maybe like fantasy romance, maybe the Jasad Heir. There were definitely parts, because they're like enemies to lovers, so like them being mean to each other and then like finally getting that payoff. My most beautiful book that I've gotten so far this year, I have signed up for a few special edition book boxes, but I think the most beautiful is from Illumicrate, and that's A Song of Legends Lost. The sprayed edges, yeah, they're beautiful, but I think what really gets me, the inside art is also really good. Like, that's gorgeous, obviously. But it's a black leather book with like embossed black on it. That's so stunning to me. The black on black is just so beautiful, and I really love this book. I gave the book a 4-star, but I am really happy to have this special edition. And then books that I need to read before the end of the year. I'm gonna say anything that's on my shelves. I intended to do some kind of like physical TBR challenge this year, but that just like has not happened at all. And then also continuing series would be great. I'm like almost at the end of a lot of different series. I want to finish The Faithful and the Fallen. I want to finish A Memory Called Empire, the second book in that duology. I've been on the last book of the Play to Prisoner series for almost 2 years at this point, I think. I really need to finish Oathbound. I've been a quarter of the way through it since it's come out. I need to read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because I really, really want to get to The Sunrise on the Reaping before the movie comes out at the very least. And I would really like to read some Joe Abercrombie this year. I have a lot of him on my shelves now and still haven't read anything by him yet. So I need to do that. Also finish the Lycan News trilogy because I did start it in 2024. That's all. That's all I got for the tag. Thank you so much for being here. If you made it this far and just want to say hello, leave me a raven or a crow for the Raven Scholar, and I will see you next time. Bye.